What's up, y'all? This is Dr. Sharonda Sturm, and I hope you're ready for this Savvyge micro lesson. Now, what these micro lessons are intended to do is to trigger a different thought process or a way to process heavy material in a simple format. So you're going to see some off the chain acronyms and some examples just so that it can trigger your memory when you get tested on these things. So now you know what to expect. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to break down acute renal failure. So I hope you're ready. First, what are the kidneys? Basically, they are a filtering network. They are filtering blood products, waste products, electrolytes. It is our filtration center. All right, and this picture does a good job of showing you just that. And what I like to break down is the basics of the patho and assessment and diagnostic studies, and that's what we're going to get to in the other slides. Now, this is where I want to pause and give you a Savvyge nugget, okay? And that is that if you don't remember the anatomy of the kidney and the different names and what they do, this is when you need to review that and go in the beginning of the chapter and review those things and make little notes by it just so that you won't get tripped up on some of the patho questions. You should know about the glomerulus network. You should know about the loop of Henle. So if those things are unfamiliar to you, then yes, this is the time to review. Let's move on. Now, as you see here, the kidney is a filtering system. We're filtering fluids, waste, and electrolytes. Oh my. But we can't forget about that acid and that base. Okay, so what are those kidneys doing? We're micturating. Yeah, that's fancy for voiding or urinating, okay? We're detoxifying. We're regulating that blood pressure. We're aiding in red blood cell production. And we're regulating vitamin D and calcium formation. Now, when you see these bullet points right here, when you're studying, this is what I want you to do. I want you to map out the human body, whatever, and really get like a bullet line to say, well, what would this look like if a person's blood pressure wasn't regulated? What would this look like if the person had a lot of toxins? What would this look like if there was an alteration in RBC production? What is the benefits of regulating vitamin D and calcium formation? And any irregularities, how does that impact my patient? Those are the questions you need to be asking yourself and finding that in your book. So how do the kidneys maintain this fluid and acid-base balance? I'm glad you asked. It's an exchange of water and solutes, and that could be hydrogen, sodium, potassium, chloride, bicarb. All right, and also there is a dance with the hormones as well. ADH. All right, let's pause. What does ADH mean? Antidiuretic hormone. Where is it secreted from? Not gonna give that away, but you should know that because that will let you know what, like if your patient was injured or suffered something traumatic to this area, then you can automatically ascertain, okay, this is going to impact ADH. All right, so that's why you need to know where it's secreted from. And the big heavy hitter, aldosterone, which is basically in charge of maintaining sodium and water balance. So I want you to think about how these hormones are going to impact your your patient? And what clinical manifestations can you already start jotting down on your paper that would reflect alterations in either one of these? All right, because these are good test questions. Aldosterone, ADH, you're always going to want to know about that. You're always going to want to know the relationship of sodium and any kind of medications that impact sodium, any kind of medications or lab work that impact potassium. This is what you need to know and how you need to study. I can't emphasize enough. If you want more and detailed, crazy examples, I can make another video and do that for you for more understanding. But I will say aldosterone, definitely, I want you to think about your urine specific gravity. Those are also test questions that can happen. What is that urine specific gravity looking like if these are altered? Think about that. According to my pathophysiology, incredibly easy, there are certain causes of acute renal failure, and it's classified as either pre-renal, intrarenal, or post-renal. And all conditions that lead to pre-renal failure impair blood flow to the kidneys, aka renal perfusion, resulting in decreased glomerular filtration rate and increased tubular reabsorption of sodium and water. Okay? Intrarenal failure results from damage to the kidneys themselves. Post-renal failure from obstructed urine flow. Now, can you provide some examples of each one of these that I have listed over here? So I've got some acronyms, and the first one is Think Sharp. Okay, that was the best I could come up with. Maybe you can do better, okay? And we can break that down into categories, and what pathophysiology made incredibly easy breaks this down into further subcategories. So severe vasoconstriction. What are some disorders that come to mind with severe vasoconstriction? If you're thinking about vasculitis, if you're thinking about malignant hypertension, DIC, then you're along the right lines. Okay? What about cardiovascular disorders? Myocardial infarction, heart failure are a couple of examples. Hypovolemia. So we could be talking about some burns, dehydration, diuretic overuse. Another category is peripheral vasodilation. So sepsis. All right. And then we have renal vascular obstruction, which could mean arterial embolism. Intrarenal failure. I mean, my acronym, I think it's pretty dope, but it's a nope for me. Okay. So we're talking about acute tubular necrosis. Now, I would star this particular one myself. Okay. And it's a note for me. Basically, I'm acronyming ischemic damage to the renal parenchymal, nephrotoxins, and obstetric complications such as eclampsia, postpartum renal failure, and pigment release such as crush injury. And again, this is all coming from that Incredibly Made Easy. I love these books. The Pathophys. It really breaks these things down. And last but not least, post-renal failure. Boo. Hello. Boo. Bladder obstruction, urethral obstruction, and ureteral obstruction. So that's what I got boo from. So hold up, boo. That's post-renal failure. So which phase is more likely to lead to chronic kidney failure and why? And so that's the question that you need to be asking yourself and be able to put that on some note cards so that when you're at your wherever, not at in class, you can at least glance at these cards and keep up with what you're trying to learn and hopefully know and keep in your mind. We don't want to memorize. We want to learn and know. Because one thing about this semester is everything is important to everything. So you can't just learn and dump. You need to associate. You need to listen, pictures, whatever, so that it sticks and so that when you're learning a next concept, it won't be so foreign. Okay, so what can we expect in treating this? Now, you see here I've got F&E balance. You see what I have, fluid restriction versus diuretic therapy during the oliguric phase. If you don't know just throw it all away now. Okay, so antiuric, anti don't pee at all, oli pees a little. Okay, oliguric. Now you don't have to throw anything away. I got you, boo. Okay? And then diet. Listen, don't sleep on the diets because trust and believe that there's always a question about diet. And so these individuals need to be on high cal diets, low in potassium, protein, and sodium. And the question you should be asking yourself is why? And that reflects to the beginning of this micro lesson, which was all in the patho. Okay? And you need to go back and look at what works those kidneys. And the answer is in this. That's why you don't want high protein and high potassium, high sodium. That's going to work the kidneys even more.